Hello everyone, welcome back to the third Spark Social Justice online series. Spark Social Justice is a project for young people aged 16 to 30. It exists to raise awareness about the importance of social justice issues and encourage young people to take a positive action. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Sarah Barber from CAFOD, which stands for Catholic Agency for Overseas Development, who is here to talk about what kind of opportunities there are available for young people and how we can make a positive difference during lockdown. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Dom.
Could you begin by giving us a little more information about what you do at CAFOD and your role and what CAFOD does in general?
Of course. Tom, my name, as you say, is Sarah Barber, and I work in the CAFOD education team. CAFOD is the Catholic Agency for Overseas Development. We work across the world in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, in Latin America, and in various communities where there are vulnerable people living right on the margins, people who are suffering with poverty and injustice. We have a fourfold mission. We respond in emergencies, and that was CAFOD's origins, really. We started by responding nearly 60 years ago to hearing about children who were starving in Dominica. It was started by a group of volunteers. They responded, and now here we are nearly 60 years later, still responding. But we, as well as our emergency work now, we also do long-term development. So we're often the charity that's the last to leave after an emergency. So we're often helping in situations where we're helping with livelihoods, helping with setting up healthcare and all sorts of different things that enable people to take agency of their own lives. So livelihoods work and long-term development is the second part of our mission. The third part is the part I'm involved with, which is education. We know it's really important that people hear and know about the needs of those living in other parts of the world. And the fourth part of our mission, and it's probably the part that people know the least about with CAFOD, is that we tackle the causes of poverty. We do this by campaigning and advocacy work. So having been involved for 60 years, we don't just want to respond with emergencies and keep ploughing into giving, but we want to also say, why are people still poor? What do we do to make a change to that situation so that people in the long term can determine their own lives and not be dependent? So yeah, advocacy and campaigning is the other part of our work. So the thing that I do mostly myself in the role is work with young people. One of the focuses for our work with young people is the Sustainable Development Goals, and I've just put a slide up now that shows what the development goals are. Just to give you a brief history of these, 15 years before the millennium, a group of the richer nations of the world gathered together and decided what they wanted to achieve by the millennium. And they set out a group of goals, including no poverty, primary education for all, healthcare for all. They had these goals. And by the year 2000, they'd made really good progress. For example, the number of children who weren't able to go to primary school had halved by the millennium, and we'd made big strides on decreasing those who were living in extreme poverty across the world. But why would you stop halfway? Why would you stop at that point? So in the year leading up to the year 2000, they said, what's going to replace the Millennium Development Goals? And they came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. One of the things that's different about these 17 goals is that CAFOD worked with some of the poorest communities to make sure their voice was heard. So it wasn't just the richer nations of the world who put these together. We pulled together a report called 100, I think it was about 100 voices, and it was different parts of the world contributing to what they wanted to see as how our world would be in the year 2030. So it's part of the Agenda 2030. But my work is raising awareness of these goals. Every country in the world signed up to them, with the exception of the Vatican, interestingly, and that is because the Vatican is an observer on these. It wasn't that they didn't sign up, they just they have a slightly different role. But all the other nations of the world have signed up to these goals, and we've got 10 years to go. Are we closer to ending poverty? Well, you know, we're in a difficult situation currently because obviously the refugee crisis has increased a lot of poverty. We're still making good strides, and the sort of fundraising and the work that people like yourself have done, and schools and universities and Catholic parishes, and you know, everybody has pulled together, has made a difference on some of these goals, and each of these goals represent people's lives. So that's my role. Sorry, that was quite long, but hopefully you've got a sense of my passion for the whole topic and how we can empower young people to make a difference.
Definitely. So I know a lot of young people are struggling to find a way to make a difference now. What kind of opportunities are CAFOD offering for young people right now, and what kind of things can they get involved with?
There's lots of things young people can get involved with CAFOD, but this morning what I've chosen to focus on are two things which you can do during lockdown. So I thought, rather than giving you the full wealth of things that you can do, I'd focus on two. And the first one is something that we're calling the Summer of Hope. We recognise for a lot of people, both in this country and overseas, coronavirus is making life very, very difficult. And people have said, oh, you know, we're all in the same boat now. I would choose to say we're all in the same storm, but we're in very different boats. Here in the UK, we do have access to healthcare. We have a wonderful NHS, but in many countries of the world, not only do they not have good healthcare, they don't have access to water or soap. And obviously in situations where we've got refugee camps, and that's refugee camps across the world, you know, the idea of trying to be isolated is very, very difficult. So CAFOD have set up an emergency appeal looking to support our partners in a time when not only are they coping with the normal difficulties of life, of poverty and lack of homes and people being on the move and all of those things, they're also now having to do so in a time of coronavirus. So the Summer of Hope. CAFOD hope is one of our values, and has always been one of our values. We recognise there is a problem, we recognise there is a need, but we move beyond that. We want to move beyond that, and we want to provide hope. So what can you do? How can we offer you a practical way of being involved this summer? Well, what we're asking people to do is to work alone or with their families and friends to recreate at home the events that you'll miss this summer, because obviously some of the things we can't do that we would normally be doing. And we want you to have fun doing it, and make it into a sign of hope through raising money for CAFOD's coronavirus appeal. So what does that mean in practice? Well, you know, maybe you'd be involved currently in having a summer fair, or there'd be some summer fundraisers in your schools, universities, colleges. What could you do? You could still fill a jar with sweets. You could put it online and you could get people to guess how many sweets are in the jar, and go onto your Just Giving page and put 50p to guess or whatever. You could guess the weight of the cake. All of those things that you would normally do at a summer fair, you could do at home. But you're doing it with your friends and family online, getting involved. Other things that we know people are doing, sports days from home. Well, obviously we've got everything from children's activities on sports days. So some of our young people are doing egg and spoon races around their houses, and timing themselves against friends, and they're all putting a donation into CAFOD, to the emergency appeal, just to support having had this idea. So some of the things we're saying is create an event and then donate. But the other way, obviously, is by doing sponsorship. So some of the event stuff, we've talked about having a mocktail hour. So, you know, if you're having Zoom meetings with your friends, see who can turn up with the most colourful drink, and all pay to join in and have a sort of mocktail competition. We've had people having beach parties and people paying 50 pence to put a song on the playlist, and people turning up in all sorts of dressing up. Basically anything you can do this summer, you can do it and raise money. Obviously there are major events that we're going to miss this summer. Some people love Wimbledon. You know, can they do a swing ball, sponsored swing ball, you know, 3 hours of doing swing ball, or hitting a tennis ball up against a wall, or if you're really into the Olympics, could you do a run, you know, and be sponsored to run a certain distance? Really, the whole thing is over to your creativity. The idea is to look at what would you do in the summer? How do we make it? How do we adapt it for our circumstances now? Make it fun, and then give hope by raising money for CAFOD. This is a couple of girls who would have been going to guide camp. So what they did, they had a camp in their back garden. These two are sisters. They had a camp in their back garden, and they gave a percentage of the money they were going to go camping with, and they donated that to CAFOD. But there's all sorts of different ideas. One group I know are looking, they would normally be going to Lourdes this summer. And so the craziest idea I've heard so far is that the Lourdes coach journey from this area is about 18 hours. So they're going to be sponsored to sit for 18 hours in the same chair with breaks at certain points, you know, comfort breaks at certain points, but they have to stay through the night. But they're going to do watch parties to share the same videos, and they're going to have moments where they're talking to people on Zoom and things like that. So they've got a plan for the whole evening to replicate their Lourdes coach journey, which sounds utterly ridiculous, but you know, whatever. I'm sure they have great fun, and it's raising money and providing hope. So essentially, however you celebrate the summer, make it hopeful. If you go onto CAFOD's Summer of Hope page, and you can do that by, you know, if you Google CAFOD Summer of Hope, that'll take you direct to the page. There's a Just Giving thing that you can literally press on there and it'll set it all up for you. You can set the Just Giving up as a group page or as individuals. And at the end of this presentation, there's links to that page. So hopefully that will give you some ideas, and we look for your creativity and seeing what you come up with. But do let CAFOD know, because we love to hear of the craziest ideas that people are coming up with. So what sort of things, you know, it's nice to have a target, to have an aim. What can your money buy? Well, £6 buys a hygiene pack for a family in these desperate times. £12 would buy an emergency food package, because for many of the people affected by coronavirus, they are being told to be in lockdown. They're staying indoors, but a lot of them are reliant. They earn their money for food each day by going out and working each day. If you can't go out and work, you can't provide food. So we're providing emergency food packages. And the other, obviously a larger donation would buy PPE for a health clinic, which is desperately needed. But at CAFOD, we know it's not all about fundraising, and we know that also, sadly, coronavirus is going to have an impact on people's financial abilities here in this country. So there are other things you can do. And the other thing we're inviting you to do is to join the Connect 2020 challenge. Essentially, what we've learned, we've known for many years, is that everything in the world is connected. You can see up there on the screen, Pope Francis, in his letter to all people of goodwill, said everything is connected. Concern for the environment needs to be joined to a sincere love for our fellow human beings and an unwavering commitment to resolving the problems of society. Essentially, we're seeing it in reality with coronavirus. We're such a connected world now. But we're asking you to choose a global theme which you're passionate about. So it could be climate change, it could be refugees, or it could be human rights, all of which are areas that CAFOD work in. So we're asking you to find out about this theme, learn more. There's loads of resources on our website that can tell you, and there's films and things that you can see. And if you explore the theme, then prepare a presentation for your family or friends or to share online. Now that presentation could be a vlog, a blog, it could be an online assembly to your school friends, it could be a dance, an art project. Again, we're looking to you for your creativity in how you want to share and raise awareness of the issue. We know you've got loads of bright ideas. And it's an opportunity to get a range of thoughts and opinions on a topic. So one of the things you could do is get in touch with your local MP, engage them in the topic. You could look at the issue of climate change from both a local and a global perspective. Talk to your MP, get them involved on an online conversation and record it to share. You could even talk to your local priest or bishop, get them to think about how the church could be more environmentally friendly. There's all sorts of things you can do, but whatever you do, we'd love you to share it, because then we can also promote it and share it with others. You'll find loads and loads of activities and fact sheets and games and films on the CAFOD website. So that's the two opportunities, Tom. I'm sorry, it feels like I've gone on for a long time, but one is fundraising, one is awareness raising. We would just love you to support us in this way. I've put at the final slide how you can contact us. And as I say, Summer of Hope, easiest thing is Google CAFOD Summer of Hope. But if you want to, there's a link there. The Connect 2020 Challenge, again, it's actually part of our home learning screens. And it says home learning, but what there is on our home learning screens are loads of different opportunities to do experiential learning and share them, all sorts of things like that. So it's not too heavily academic. And then my contact details are at the bottom there. So if anybody would like to ask me more information or send me details of what they're planning to do, I would love to hear. I hope that's given you a sense of some of the things that you can get involved with, Tom. And I haven't really stopped for a breath. So over to you. Are there any questions?
No, thank you so much for telling us about that. I know I'm feeling quite empowered and quite I feel like I have quite a lot of ideas in my head of things that I can start doing, and I'm sure other people that are watching this are feeling the same way. So thank you so much for coming to join us today. We'll leave a link in the description of the YouTube video to all of the things that have been mentioned, as well as some additional resources for anyone that needs them.
Yeah, Tom, sorry, just say I meant to say to people, that link that you're talking about to a film is CAFOD in Sierra Leone. It's difficult at the moment to share images of what's happening. Normally CAFOD would be able to share films and images, but because everyone's in lockdown, but CAFOD wanted to, he's one of our team who are based in Sierra Leone, and he wanted to speak to you all. So there's a little film of him, and I'd love people to watch it. Sorry, Tom, thanks for mentioning it again.
Yeah, so we'll leave a link to that and the Summer of Hope, so they're easily accessible for people to click straight on. Thank you again for joining us. That's it for this episode, unfortunately, but in the meantime, make sure you check out our Facebook, Twitter and YouTube for other, which is for the handles for those are Spark Social Justice, for more social justice news as well as episodes and other resources. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I think we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Thanks.